What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Another horror franchise that I absolutely love, guys, is Silent Hill. This is one that certainly the earlier games in the franchise were very unnerving at points throughout the course of the game, and even more recently the newer games that have come out, even though we haven't had a Silent Hill game in quite some time, those were still pretty good in my personal opinion, even though a lot of people had their of course mixed reactions towards some of the newer Silent Hill games. Well, with that, Silent Hills, which was going to be the next game from Hideo Kojima before he split ways with Konami and went on to make Death Stranding with Guillermo del Toro, as well as, of course, just the entire cast essentially from Death Stranding. And with that, guys, I think there's a real question mark here as to, is Silent Hills going to be made, because there's a lot of rumblings, a lot of talk that Hideo Kojima, Norman Reedus, and these guys are all talking about coming back to finish this game, that being Silent Hills, which what we got was a sneak peek of it in the form of PT, which of course was like a playable teaser, and with that it was a really eerie and unnerving experience, to say the least, and I would love to see the final version of Silent Hills. But with that, guys, since there's been this this recent talks and rumblings that Hideo Kojima was coming back to work with Konami, based upon Sony actually bringing this team back together, I thought no better way than to talk about everything that we want in Silent Hills. So let's get into it. So to me, guys, I think that Silent Hill has done a great job of creating this really unnerving experience. Kind of reminds me of like Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, maybe some of the earlier Resident Evil games as well. But I love Silent Hill for just the tension and the the real like scary environments that they've created in that franchise. And I think with Silent Hills, one of the things I'd love to see is some, of course, similarities, but obviously some differences. I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Silent Hills be a soft reboot to this franchise. I think Hideo Kojima is the perfect person to kind of helm this series kind of moving forward, at least for a couple of games, even though he's probably going to be working on Death Stranding as well, between Silent Hills and Death Stranding, and maybe even Metal Gear Solid, which is, we've talked about that on the YouTube channel as well. But nonetheless, Silent Hills, if this does get made, I would like to maybe see a soft reboot kind of version, and a version certainly based upon, what Hideo Kojima feels the series needs to go in, like as far as the direction is concerned. That leads me to the next thing, which is having new characters, some new enemies, new environments, new locations that you can explore. I think it's really important, guys, with any franchise out there, it's important to have similarities, but it's also really important to have the differences. And I think that Silent Hill is no different. I think Silent Hills, when with this game in particular, I think from just playing PT, when that came out, there were certainly similarities to Silent Hill, but there were definitely some differences as well. And I thought that the tension building was unlike anything that I've experienced in, even though it was just, a demo, a playable teaser, I think there was something really special there. And so I'd like to explore that. I'd like to have some similar characters that are from the game's past, but I'd like to also have new characters, having new enemies, of course. Even some, existing enemies I think is important, but having, new enemies as well. And then, of course, guys, the locations I think are really important as well, where there's like those new locations. Of course, having that the familiarity of different locations is important to kind of make you feel like you're really in a Silent Hill, like in this universe. But I also think having those differences is going to be really great, because it expands upon the story, the lore that they're trying to build here. And so with that, guys, I think it's important also that you know, within this, you know, this story, I think it's important as well as, you know, there's multiple ways we can connect with the story. I think it's important that there are co-op modes, like you're able to play with your friends. You know, maybe after you beat the story on single player, you can go back through. There's co-op missions where, you know, you're able to play PvE, you know, similar to maybe some like multiplayer modes where you're able to go up against waves and waves of enemies in the Silent Hill universe. I think that would be something really cool. Maybe not necessarily PvP elements, but more so those PvE elements, even though you could technically do some PvP, like, you know, a 3v1 or something similar to like Dead by Daylight or something in the Silent Hill universe. I think that would be really cool. But at the very least, having other ways, guys, that you're able to, you know, connect with the franchise. And we talk about this all the time, guys, with so many different franchises out there that don't do this. Death Stranding being one of them. Hideo Kojima's newest game doesn't have a lot of ways to connect with the franchise other than that of the single player story that you play through, and then after you're done, you might want to play it through again and kind of do all the exploration and such. But after you're done, a lot of people probably just moved on to another game. And so what I'm getting at is multiplayer and co-op and having, you know, PvE elements and such to these games certainly will bring some people back, and it kind of really builds that fan base. The next thing, guys, that leads me to is, you know, having a semi-open world setting I think would be really special with Silent Hill. Having semi-open world, even potentially kind of teasing the full open world scale of Silent Hills would be really interesting. It would be somewhere where you're able to explore a lot, really get to learn more about the lore of the story, having collectibles, learning, you know, just all kinds of different things about this world that we never have learned before. And I feel like Hideo Kojima would certainly want to make this a living, breathing type of game where there's so, you know, much to explore and such, unlike any other Silent Hill game we've ever played. And so I think that's going to be really important as well moving into this game. And at the end of the day, guys, I think that there, you know, just there needs to be, you know, lastly, in my opinion, Silent Hills needs to be the setup for the next, you know, essentially generation of Silent Hill games. I think that this needs to set up games in the future within the Silent Hill franchise. I think that it's important that it's like its own thing. But I also think that, you know, knowing Hideo Kojima, knowing all the Easter eggs and the psychological elements to some of his games, he could really set this thing up for years to come. Whether he does it or someone else does it, he can at least set it up where there's a lot of question marks based on, you know, like where's the story going to go now? You know, lots of like psychological elements and things of that nature. He does such a good job of that. I would love to see them kind of set up the next generation of Silent Hill. But with that, guys, obviously at this point in time, we don't have official confirmation of Silent Hills that it's being, you know, the teams are coming back together. What we do know is that Sony is trying to mend this broken relationship between Konami as well as Kojima, which I hope happens, because I would love to see, you know, kind of a final game by Hideo Kojima in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I believe Metal Gear Solid 6 would be really great to see, kind of his like farewell. And then I would love to also see him do Silent Hills, and in between that, of course, do like maybe a Death Stranding 2 or a new IP altogether. Kojima Productions is going to be growing over time, guys, his company, and so I think they'll be able to work on multiple projects at some point or another. But with that, guys, let me know, what do you guys want to see in Silent Hills? Do you think this game's going to get made? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Silent Hills content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. The new Fable Reboot has been revealed to the world, guys, even though it was a very short trailer, nothing really, kind of just a teaser trailer, giving us an announcement that Fable is coming back. And of course, guys, this is one of Xbox's exclusives that is a really special franchise, to say the least. I mean, I've put Fable up there with games like Gears of War and even Halo. I mean, this is a franchise that has a very, you know, passionate fan base, and something, you know, a franchise that has had so many people wanting to see a continuation here. And I'm really excited, guys, that Fable is going to be coming out at some point or another. Maybe it'll be in, you know, the next few years or something. It's hard to say, you know, what stage of development Playground Games is in with this game. However, we know that it's coming, and that is really exciting for all of us who are Fable fans. And with that, guys, I wanted to go ahead and talk about the top 5 things that we want in Fable And with that, guys, you know, when I say we, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinions here. Some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. Let me know in the comment section down below what things you want to see in the new Fable, the Fable Reboot. So let's get into it. So coming in, guys, at number 1 for me, I believe it's been a long time, right? Since we've seen this franchise, you know, Fable 3, it's been a while. And so in my personal opinion, and in the fact of the matter that this game is called Fable, now maybe it's going to be called, you know, something else, you know, at some point or another, you know, they'll come up with a new name or, you know, something of that nature. I want to see a soft reboot, and I think we're kind of getting teased that here. And the reason is, guys, is because I think that the first 3 games, you know, that was kind of like a trilogy. And now I think that the soft reboot here with Fable would be really great to kind of draw in new people who never played the original 3 games. I think that it's a great time, obviously, with the Xbox Series X coming out. They're going to, of course, have this backwards compatibility where you'll be able to play all of the Fable games all the way back to, you know, the original Xbox and such. And so what I'm getting at here is this is a great time to you can kind of get a hands-on experience with the Fable franchise. It'll be at your fingertips with the Xbox Series X, and that kind of leads us to the new Fable, which can be like this soft reboot, this, you know, kind of new take on the beloved franchise, which I'm really excited about. And I think it can, you know, really do things in a way that tie in maybe to the original 3 games, but kind of is on its own. And that leads me to number 2, which to me, guys, what's really important here with the new Fable game is having new characters, new enemies, new locations, of course, new environments and such to explore. And with that, guys, there's, of course, going to be, you know, fan favorites, you know, whether that be characters or enemies or locations and such that people really love. But I think it's going to be important with this reboot, if this is a soft reboot, I think it's really important that, you know, there are new enemies and there's also new characters. There can be existing characters and existing enemies, existing locations from the other games to give you some familiarity. But I think it's also really important to have, you know, more than, you know, than just like, you don't want it to be like a copy and paste of the older games, essentially. You really want this to be something that they have, you know, constructed in a way that, I mean, just creates this living, breathing place that we really enjoy, able to spend, you know, hundreds of hours in, and there's so much to explore, so much to kind of take in and such. I think that's going to be really important. And that comes to like locations and environments and such, guys. I think it's important that we have, you know, certain places that are familiar to us from the original games, but also things that are different, things that are new places to explore. I think that would be great for this franchise moving forward. And so, you know, with that, guys, that leads me to number 3. And at number 3 for me, guys, is, you know, this might be somewhat controversial, but I think it's important that Fable, when we're moving into the next-gen consoles, and it's been a long time since we saw a Fable game, I think it's important that there's more ways than just one that we connect with this franchise. And that being, of course, multiplayer and co-op modes. And look, when I say that, I'm not necessarily saying that there has to be PvP, but when I'm saying that based on maybe having PvE elements to it, or I'm not saying that Fable has to have a battle royale, but like having different ways at the end of the day that we can connect with the franchise outside of the story. The story is probably going to be exciting, and I can't wait. Even if it's not a great game, guys, as far as from the story perspective, at least we're getting another Fable, which is really exciting. I think, though, that having multiplayer modes, having co-op modes like co-op missions and such, after you're done with the story, because typically after you're done playing a campaign a couple of times through, you might play it once and then you move on to another game. You might play it twice, look for all the collectibles and such, kind of take your time. But after you beat it a couple of times, you most likely are going to move on to other games if there's not other things to do. So with Fable, if we have multiplayer and co-op modes, it brings you back and it continues building upon this idea of the legacy, the lore, the story that is, Fable, and it helps just build upon that fan base that they're trying to build here. They want people to come back to these games over and over again. It's an Xbox exclusive, so I'm hoping we see that. And then coming in, guys, at number 4 for me, which is having more ways to customize, just more customization options, essentially, is what I'm getting at here, is having more ways that we can customize our characters, customize, whatever we, all of the different things that kind of make Fable what Fable is. I think it's important that there's a lot of customization options, and I'm talking earnable items, guys. I'm not talking about the payable items. Having payable items most likely will come, microtransactions are riddled through pretty much all the games nowadays. But what I'll say is this: having things that you can earn within the game, earn within the campaign, earn within the co-op missions, earn within the multiplayer, those are things that bring you back, to bring you like continually back to play Fable as a game. And so I would love to see more customization to your characters, to weapons, to just everything, guys. I think that would be great for this franchise moving into this new reboot for Fable. And that leads me, guys, into number 5, which obviously, guys, I'm assuming we're going to get a pretty nice sized open world here from the looks of like the, obviously we didn't see much, right, from the reveal trailer, but I'm assuming we're going to get a pretty nice expansive world. It's been a long time, so I'm hoping that we will get a really nice expansive world. And the last thing for me, though, is that I would like to have more things that we can do along the journey. So, side missions and just there's things that we can do throughout the course of the journey. There's a lot of open world games, guys, that are very open, that have, all kinds of places that you can explore, but there's not much to do a lot of times on the journeys to those places. It's kind of like dull landscapes, not really, great environments and locations and such. I want Fable to really wow me when I'm traveling through this world and such, and having multiple things that I can do along the way, whether it be side missions or there's strangers on the road that, you can do things for, or, all kinds of different things to do, guys. I think the more that you can do within the story that are at least options, I think is going to really help the overall, game as a whole. But with that, guys, that is, the top 5 things that I want to see in Fable. One thing that I would say is an honorable mention is I'm assuming, guys, that Xbox is investing money, a good amount of money here to get Fable made. And I don't think that they're doing it just to make one Fable. I think that they're planning a very long franchise here, which is what I'm hoping for. But what I want to see with Fable is I want them to set up these other games. Whether we're talking this game, let's just say this game, for example, is a prequel to the original 3, or it's a continuation, or just like a soft reboot, whatever it is, I want to see this game set up the next generation of Fable games, and I hope we get Fable games much more regularly than we have between Fable 3 and this, Fable Reboot. But with that, guys, those are the main things that I want to see in the new Fable game. Let me know in the comment section down below, what are your top 5 things that you guys want to see in Fable? Let me know down there. And for more Fable content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the YouTube channel about Killzone, guys. This was one of the first games I played on the PlayStation 3, and I gotta say that I really do enjoy this franchise as a whole and what we've gotten at this point. With that, though, we've talked about the possibility of another Killzone game coming out at some point or another. Now, of course, guys, Killzone is created by Guerrilla Games, the same guys who, of course, make the Horizon games. And so, obviously, we've got the new Horizon, Forbidden West, is going to be pretty much, of course, the next game coming out by Guerrilla Games. And so we had talked on the YouTube channel about the possibility of maybe are we going to see a Killzone 5, or are we going to see, a continuation of Horizon, which I had thought that Horizon most likely was going to be the next thing because of how popular Horizon Zero Dawn was. But with that, guys, Killzone 5 is certainly not something that I think is, going to go the wayside. I think that this is something that Guerrilla Games is still certainly thinking about. Obviously, Horizon is kind of the, at the forefront. But if you're a big Killzone fan, don't, lose hope as of yet. And with that, I want to go over everything that we want in Killzone 5. And when I say we, guys, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinions here. Some of you may agree, some of you may disagree, which is fine. Just let me know in the comment section down below what you guys want to see in Killzone 5. So like I said, guys, at this point in time, Killzone 5 is not greenlit. It's not, at least from what we know, it is not something that's being in active development over at Guerrilla Games. This is something that they have talked about, though. They've stated that they would like to come back to the Killzone franchise, and I think they should, especially after Shadowfall. I definitely don't want that to be the last memory of Killzone, because I thought it was one of the weaker games within the franchise. But nonetheless, we haven't gotten a new Killzone game since 2013. It's been a long time, guys. So I would love to see that at some point or another. So really, one of the first things I'd like to say is that I just want to see Killzone 5 made. I think that's, one of the big things that I would like to see is that we just want to see this game get made. At number 2 for me, though, is that obviously, guys, I think what they need to do is, now that we're getting into, Killzone 5, essentially, I think it's important that there's somewhat of a reboot potentially here. Maybe a soft reboot. Maybe they want to, start really kind of bringing these games out for the next generation, obviously, of gamers, of consoles, and things of that nature. And I think they could do a really good job from that perspective, as far as, graphically, and just from, a visual perspective, from a story perspective. And that leads me to, one of the things with the story, guys, I'd like to see is a semi-open world. I'd like to see some differences here. I want to see, some similarities, but I definitely want to see some differences too. I'd like to see kind of an open world setting in Killzone, ways that we can kind of explore it unlike we've ever done before. And when I say that, overall Killzone has been like this linear experience. And if, I'll give you an example with Gears of War, I was very concerned about them going in the semi-open world setting in Gears of War, because we had this linear experience, and they changed it up in Gears 5. And I got to say, I absolutely loved it. I loved being able to explore outside of what, what that linear experience was going to be all about. And I loved that we were able to explore, and it kind of paced the game well, in my opinion. And I think Killzone 5 could absolutely take advantage of that in a major way. And, with that, guys, a semi-open world, I'm not saying a full open world, but a semi-open world where they can kind of like tease this idea of, and see what us as fans think about that. I think that would be a really great thing. I also think, guys, that one of the biggest things to me that has kind of held Killzone back is the multiplayer experiences. Even though, like, I've loved the multiplayer, I feel that it was never as big as it should have been. It was always something that I didn't feel kind of got the justice that it deserved as far as from a multiplayer experience. Now, in all fairness, I think it's probably partially because it's a PlayStation exclusive. So only PlayStation people can play it. So that's already limiting, how many people are able to access the multiplayer, The same thing goes with like Halo and Gears of War. Those are exclusives to Xbox. So it kind of limits your exposure. Not everyone can play the game. And so with Killzone, though, I would absolutely love to see, with the multiplayer experience, I would love to see a free-to-play multiplayer experience where it's cross-play and it's not just exclusive to PlayStation. I think it would be great for the Killzone franchise if this was something that wasn't, exactly exclusive. Maybe the campaign and such is exclusive, but I would love to see the multiplayer be free to play, or at least, have the ability where other people outside of PlayStation users can play it. I think that would be really helpful in building the multiplayer, and it would justify continuing the franchise moving forward, in my personal opinion. Now, we've gotten, 4 of these games, technically speaking, up to this point in time. I mean, we've, of course, have, our last game was Shadowfall. And even though, it was okay, I don't even really consider it, even though it's technically, a part of canon, I think that it's important that this is I kind of almost forget about, Shadowfall. I would really like to see with Killzone 5 here, I'd like them, not only with the soft reboot, but I'd like them to tie in one way, shape, or form to like the original Killzone games. However they may do that with like new characters and new enemies and like new locations, new environments, but also having the existing characters, some existing ones from the past would be really great as well. Existing characters, existing enemies, and like existing locations would give you that familiarity. Now, what I will also say, guys, outside of, you know, having multiplayer, I think it's also important to have co-op, having ways that I can play with my friends after I'm done playing the story, whether there's co-op missions, whether there's PvE, where you're going up against waves and waves of enemies, or, you know, PvP elements, which I think is what really should be a focal point moving into Killzone 5. The fact of the matter is, though, guys, is that, you know, you want a full package. When you're paying a $60, you know, price tag for a game, especially if, you know, Killzone 5, you know, doesn't have the, you know, free-to-play multiplayer, doesn't have it where it's like cross-play and such, I think it's going to be really important that there are a number of ways that we who are, you know, PlayStation users who play PlayStation as well as other consoles, I think it's going to be really important that there's just a lot of ways and reasons for us to stay playing Killzone. And so with that, guys, those are the main things for me that I really want to see in Killzone 5. Now, look, like I said, we don't have any confirmation. There's been rumblings and talks that Killzone 5 is secretly under development or in development over at Guerrilla Games. And Guerrilla Games, that studio is growing because of course, the success of Horizon, and of course, Horizon Forbidden West, and then, of course, moving, you know, if we get a Killzone 5, that could be something really special moving into the next generation of consoles. But let me know, guys, what do you guys think? What is it that you guys want to see in Killzone 5? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Killzone 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. The Xbox Game Showcase I really enjoyed overall. I thought that there were certainly some memorable moments. There were moments, of course, that, you know, kind of felt, you know, not as great as I was kind of expecting or hoping for. Some letdowns, but some really great surprises. And overall, I thought the Xbox Game Showcase had a little bit of everything for every kind of gamer out there. And with that, you know, the biggest thing, guys, to me was and a lot of people really aren't talking about this, which is interesting, but Xbox Game Pass. This is a service, guys, which, in my opinion, is the best service in all of gaming, and it's not even close at this point. I mean, I've been saying this for a while now, that Xbox Game Pass is the Netflix of gaming right here, right now. What Xbox is building with Xbox Game Pass is something really special. And look, lots of people aren't talking about it. Lots of people are just talking about, oh, the console wars. People are talking about, oh, PlayStation 1, you know, their game showcase over Xbox, you know, or Xbox One, you know, their showcase over PlayStation. There are really big and great things that are happening while everyone else is kind of just, you know, arguing about who's winning the console wars and such, which is another conversation for another day. What we know, though, guys, is everything that was shown at the Xbox Game Showcase is going to be available with Xbox Game Pass. And that's huge. Like, that is absolutely huge. Think about it like this. You get, you know, you get to do Xbox Game Pass for $1. I think it's like the first month or something. And then, of course, you get this, the model is like, I think it's, you know, $10 a month on console, and then, you know, on PC. And then as far as like for Ultimate, I think it's like $15 a month. I mean, the model is, you know, it's one of those things. I think it's kind of changing as well. But nonetheless, this is a model that people should really be talking about. I mean, it's absolutely huge. I mean, think about it like this. Okay, let's say you pay $15 a month, but you have access to over 100 games to play. I mean, guys, you could spend years on the games that they have at this point in time. And then all the games that they showed at the Xbox Game Showcase are coming to Xbox Game Pass. Now, I'm anticipating that the Xbox Game Pass most likely is going to, and I'm really expecting it to go up in price over the years. I mean, I think that that's something that will happen, but this is the best service in gaming. And it's not even close. I think that the amount of games that they have and all the exclusives that are going to be coming out, they're really banking on Xbox Game Pass, really kind of being something successful for them. And I hope it does. I really do, because I want to see all of the studios, or I should say pretty much all of the, big corporations like Sony, Nintendo, to follow suit here and have something like this. But Xbox Game Pass, since it's launched, as well as xCloud, Xbox Game Pass is going to have like a head start on what PlayStation thinks of, as well as what Nintendo does. And so what I'm getting at here, guys, is that everyone's talking about the console wars, but they're not talking about a service that is absolutely incredible. And I'm not saying that, this is a reason why you should be buying Xbox, or I'm not saying that this is, why they're winning the console wars. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that this is the best service. I mean, if you want to get the best bang for your buck, guys, and you don't want to, because a lot of us aren't able to afford a number of games a year, like, $60 for a game, I mean, that's pretty expensive. But if you can get those games, the games that you like, now, if you don't like any of the Xbox Game Pass games, then, of course, that you'll be out of luck with that. But if you like some of these games, let's just say, for example, you're a big Halo fan and you don't want to go out and pay, $60, price tag for the new Halo. And you're kind of a casual Halo player. You'll like playing the campaign, then you'll kind of dip your toes in the multiplayer Forge mode and things of that nature. And then you'll move on to another game. Then Xbox Game Pass is the best thing for you, because you can get it for $1 or $9.99 a month, whatever it might be. And it justifies, you get the Xbox Game Pass, you play Halo, and then you can play 100+ more games that are coming out around that same time. All these games that are already on there. And guys, there's a real library list, and it's growing at a rapid rate. And to me, Xbox, the reason why I say that it is the Netflix of gaming is because what Netflix did was they had this service where you could watch movies and such, of course, just from the comfort of your own home. But then the way that they evolved was they pumped billions of dollars into their own content and had that content available for you that you're able to binge watch. And they started with like binge watching shows and things of that nature. So what Xbox is doing is something similar. They've got a lot of games on there that aren't just Xbox exclusives right now, but I think the idea is Xbox is taking an aggressive approach to own the exclusive market, where they are like Netflix. They're pumping out a lot of exclusive content, so it gives you so much reason to get Xbox Game Pass, especially if you're an Xbox user. I mean, guys, it's a no-brainer to have this service. I mean, you can, of course, there's, tons of games on there, some great games on there, and even games that aren't owned necessarily by Xbox have partnered with Xbox to do this service. Now, in the long run, is Xbox Game Pass going to make Microsoft money is a whole nother conversation, but I think if enough people are doing it, it will justify it. Without a doubt. And I mean, you could say the same thing about Netflix, right? You could say, well, how are they really making, their money if they're pumping out so much money into content to create all this exclusive content? How are they making money based on like a $10 subscription to Netflix? Well, it's the amount of subscriptions that they're getting. And look, at the end of the day, I think Xbox is taking that same approach where they're thinking, look, we're going to have so much content that people are going to be able to take in that it totally justifies getting the Game Pass. And maybe Game Pass, goes up in price over time, but they're going to be so far in a way ahead of everyone else when it comes to a service like this. This could be a real tipping point in what people decide to do moving into the next generation of consoles. And like I said, I'm not saying that Xbox is going to win the next generation of consoles, because a lot of people sound like they're going to get the PlayStation, and people are, passionate PlayStation players at this point. But Xbox is taking things very seriously, like an aggressive approach to try to own this side of the market, that being like exclusives. PlayStation has some great exclusives, don't get me wrong. So does Nintendo. But the fact of the matter is that Xbox has more of the exclusives at this point in time. They are building a bigger library of exclusives than that of PlayStation. And that's just right now. It could certainly change. But of course, we know that the exclusives from Sony have sold incredibly well. The exclusives from Xbox have done well, not as well as PlayStation. So it's a very interesting, war that's going on here, guys. But it's small battles like this, in my opinion, that are going to dictate what happens in the next generation of consoles and such, and for the future. I just love, since I love Xbox, I love PlayStation, I love Nintendo, I love all of them. What I'll say is that Xbox obviously did a terrible job with, their announcement of the Xbox One when that came out, and they kind of redeemed themselves over time. And I feel like Xbox Game Pass is just kind of showing us their vision long-term for this thing. And this is big. This is really big. I mean, this launched back in 2017, and now a few years later, this is where we're at. And I mean, they have more exclusives coming out than any other, company out there, and it's not even close. Sure, you could say that, oh, these exclusives aren't as good as PlayStation's, but they've got just so much content you can take in, like from a gamer's perspective. I mean, it's unbelievable. So with that, guys, keep your eyes on Xbox Game Pass. Definitely check it out. If you're an Xbox, if you play Xbox, you should be definitely looking at this. I think that this is going to get bigger and bigger over time. I think that PlayStation and Nintendo need to have similar services like this, and this could certainly help dictate what happens with the next generation of consoles. But with that, guys, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys love Game Pass? Do you use Game Pass? Did Xbox Game Showcase kind of convince you to at least try Xbox Game Pass? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more content like this, guys, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.